Hello?
Hello? Hello? Hey Murph, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm good. Okay, so yeah, let's just jump into it because this is I'm already recording and I know this one's like a little bit different where we're just going to be talking
Mhm. We
versus
can
like
play a bit. I have like my Switch set up and I have Slippy like ready to go if we wanna play, but yeah, we can just talk for a bit first.
sure. Yeah. I can't play unfortunately because I have only a handheld Switch and a CRT. I'm actually home in NB right now. So
Okay,
my
no
stuff is
worries.
all in Toronto.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, cool. Uh But yeah, so I know you said you've struggled a little bit when it comes to like competition mentality, but also like how to, from what I'm understanding, it's like how to adapt mid game. I have read what you've written out just a little bit before I gave you a call right now, but do you want to give me like a quick rundown of like just from in like simple terms, like what it is you think you think you're struggling with the most?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what happened like the most recently that made me kind of quit or like whatever temporarily take a break.
Sure.
First thing I want to say is that I did take a break from Ultimate and I feel a lot better. Like I played it a couple days ago and I felt like pretty good. Before
Hmm.
that, I was like, I'm never like touching this crap again. Like it was bad. But
Sure.
what happened was, so like normally when I enter tournament, I'm slightly nervous, not a huge deal. I usually get over it. Sometimes I don't. It's fine. But what
Hmm.
happens to me is I always lose the same way. Everyone I lose to, it's like the same thing. And then what I just have kept telling myself is like, it's
Self is
fine.
like,
I'll learn. I'll figure it out. And then it
mhm.
never kind of happens. So like the thing that made me lose like really bad, that made me have like a mental boom or whatever is so I was playing Seth Lemony Rex and he
Mhm.
plays Snake and I play Game and Watch. So that's a good matchup for me. I like it. But anyways, the point is like it was the tense kind of last game, last stock situation. Game was
Mhm.
dragging on. There was like a minute left. I was exhausted. And then what he did was he just started trying to bait me and this is what happens to this is the thing I was talking about where I tend to get baited a lot because I can't seem to see more than what's in front of me at any given moment. And it like really hurt, kind of the way I lost there really hurt because it just kind of displayed everything I've struggled to learn just in that one moment. And like, kudos to him, he figured it out. But what he did was he just kind of dropped a grenade in front of his feet and he just stood there. And I just ran up to bucket it like just like a,
Mhm.
I don't know, he just set the bait, and as soon as I came up, he up tilted me before the thing even exploded, and that's how I lost the
Right.
stock. Like, and it was a really good bait from him, but it's that type of situation that just killed me because like I know you don't have to you, it's like oh yeah, it's one game, it's whatever. But for me, it's like
Mhm.
that type of thing happens all the time. It's every time I lose, it's because of that, and I don't know how to
Right.
fix it. I don't feel like I know how to think past like what's in front of me on the screen. Like I was talking
Okay,
to
no, that's fine.
Rob Groovy like I was
Mhm.
just messaging him and stuff, and he basically kind of said, I play the game as if it were Guitar Hero. Like I see a color on the screen and I hit a button, and it's like that's kind of how I play, and I don't really think. I don't bait people. I get baited because I just don't really like think more than what's just kind of going on. So I know that was a
He's
lot of
saying you're
stuff.
playing it like Guitar Hero.
Yeah, and I
Okay, I
laughed
was
at
gonna say
that.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I laughed at that because it's
Yeah.
true. It's true. And then the other kind of secondary problem is the competition thing, which my wife kind of helped me figure out because I was
Mhm.
talking to her and she was kind of saying like every time I talk about the game to her, I tell her these little things that and she's kind of picked up on, like
Mhm.
I was playing against someone whose girlfriend was there and then I had like texted her and saying, "Oh, I feel bad like I don't know if I want to beat this person because his girlfriend's there watching and stuff." And then she was the one who told me she's like, "Andre, like cut that out. Like this is a competition.
Yeah.
You have to kind of play to win and don't think about these other things." And
Mhm.
with me that this kind of secondary problem is when I started the game, it was because I moved to New Brunswick. I didn't know anyone, and I just wanted to join like a community. Like this is why I got into it. Like I started in
Yeah, yeah.
2019 when I moved here, so
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to play, and I wanted to, be liked. And then
Mhm.
that kind of made me learn the game in a way where I don't really play like super annoying or like really play
Right.
lame or anything that kind of sometimes you have to do. You don't always have to play like that, but like I feel like I don't have the capacity to even do that at all, even when I need to, and then I'll like lose games because of that, because I'm not like I'll notice they sigh a bit or they're frustrated, and then I'll kind of ease off the pressure like subconsciously, stuff like that. So it's like these two problems that are like really hindering me, and they're not something I can go in training mode, and they're not really related to ultimate or melee or anything.
Yeah,
Like it's just game
it's
stuff.
all
Like
mentality.
yeah, so I just the break kind of helped because before I was like going crazy, and now I'm like at least calm enough to try to figure out a plan for going
Mhm.
forward. But I just feel like I need help. I don't know if I can
Yeah,
do it
no, it's
alone.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I would definitely categorize those two issues in like two different aspects of like competition mentality. Like one is like a very like player to player, like you were describing. Like to me, it sounds like you're just having too much empathy for your opponent, which like we can talk about a little bit. But like the other thing about like getting baited, like that's just more about like um strategy and like structure for like how you approach the game and stuff like that, which is mental, but it's also like how you like play the game as a player.
Mhm.
Um, so like that one, I think we can talk about a little bit more. But like just to like first talk about like to me like the empathy thing in game, like if it's like oh like I want to be like because I totally get it. Like if you want to like join the Smash community to like make friends, it's like pretty frustrating, especially if you were to play like a really campy character or something like the notorious one is in Melee is like Jigglypuff and Ice Climbers players. Like they just get ostracized so quickly just because of the character they play.
That is part of the reason I quit Puff too, because I couldn't handle I think the character's lame too, and I couldn't handle other people being like unhappy with it even, and then like this kind of second I started doing well or doing what needs to be done, I realized I couldn't do this and I didn't want to play the character anymore. So that's a
Yeah.
separate thing, but yeah, I've like totally quit Puff for like the past 3 or 4 months. So
Okay.
my results have just completely dropped. Like I've been going 0-2 every time, but still having fun and learning Sheik and Falco again. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, like it is part of that too. It's not like a specifically alt thing. It's also,
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
competition. Like, um, so yeah, like I would definitely agree with your wife. Like, you can't really feel bad for your opponent. Like at the end of the day, like whoever you're playing against, like you two are sitting down at the same game setup, and one of you has to win, one of you has to lose, and that's kind of like the downside of tournaments. Is like it's not like friendlies or like a Smash Fest or something where like everybody could just kind of go and hang out. Like ultimately, someone is there to win, and like it's up to you to determine if that's going to be you or not.
Can
Um,
can I interrupt for a sec? So, like,
yeah, yeah,
something
sure.
I have noticed that, like, the thing you said about friendlies, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm like way too honest with the way I play in general. Like I don't try to trick people. I don't try to play lame or make anyone feel bad. That's just kind of how I learned the game because of what I said about trying to join the community. I'm now past that. Like now I have friends. I
Mhm.
have like lots of people. I'm like a friggin' TO now. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have lots of stuff already in the community. I don't really need to worry about that anymore or people not liking me and stuff. But when I notice like playing friendlies too, I try to practice, and then everyone's playing like really aggressive or fun or just trying fun things. And then in,
Yeah.
like for example, Josh Magbrag, he'll like run at me 10 games in a row. I'll like beat his ass because he's just running at me. And then in
Mhm.
tournament, I can't touch him because he's like camping like crazy. So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
people play way different. Where I feel like I don't really understand what they're doing in tournament that is so different. To me, like my natural kind of thing is like I'll just play how I normally play at all times, and then in
Mhm.
tournament where I can't turn that extra gear up or whatever, and they can, and then they beat me because of that kind of stuff. Like they're willing to do like anything it takes to win, and don't want to say I'm not, but I don't know how to.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's like I'm just taking notes so I don't
Hmm.
lose points so that we can talk about everything and hopefully within the hour. But um, yeah, that's definitely like a real problem a lot of people run into. I would definitely categorize that into the other side of mentality that I like to think about is like strategizing. Um, so yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit because I do think that's a valid point. It's something a lot of people struggle with. But in terms of like lack of empathy or like being able to recognize like certain patterns or blah blah blah. First, I think it helps to have the idea that like when you're playing in a tournament, it like just to like really simplify it, like you don't want to lose, right? No matter like how bad you feel your opponent or like if they SD or like maybe they're just not that great, like you can tell they're new, whatever. Like ultimately, at least for me personally, like a big drive for like trying to like keep up a certain play style or like level of play is thinking like I do not want to lose to this person. Like, however bad I feel for them because they're going through whatever they're going through in the game. Like, I know I'm gonna feel 10 times worse if I lose to them while this is going on. You know. Um, so there's like a Mango's like a really bad example for like prime mentality in Smash, but I do think he has like good points here and there. It's just like it's very like I don't know how to describe it, like kind of like in the Mango language.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
basically,
I
like
know.
what one thing that he said like years ago, and I think I saw a video of him saying it recently, but it's always stuck with me. Is like you can have friends in the community, and like I know, like you were saying, like you've already well established yourself within the New Brunswick scene, but like at the end of the day, like when you're sitting at a setup next to me and we're playing a tournament, like I'm not your friend anymore. Like it's at this point, it's either me or you, and I'm choosing me every single time of the day. Like you just kind of have like a fuck you mentality. Like I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. I don't care. Like whatever. And like that's rough, and it's very easy to fall out of that. And some people they're just not built for that, which is why like in my opinion, like tournaments aren't for everybody, but you can still play the game. But I definitely am of the opinion that like when you're playing in a tournament set, like it does not matter. Like I don't care if you've been playing for 1 year or like 5 years or whatever. Like if I have an opportunity to kill you and like or just like not fall for your stuff that I know better than to fall for, like I'm just not gonna do it. You know. In friendlies, like what you're saying with Josh, there's less stakes. You can be more relaxed. You can experiment a little bit more. You don't have to have as much defense. You can play a little bit more aggressive. And we'll talk about that later, like I said. But like basically, the point that I'm trying to say is like you really need to like have a mindset of like I don't care what you're going through. Like if you're like upset at yourself, like I've played in so many tournaments, like especially in Smash Four, but like even in Ultimate too, uh, where people are losing it mid set. They're like swearing under their breath, they're shaking their head, like
That stuff really
they're
like really bothers me. Like I have to wear headphones, and I'm like, I was
hmm,
even thinking of like putting my hood up to like block everything out. Like I'm
yeah.
the guy, like I bring headphones and like a splitter and a speaker, and like I just want to like zone into the screen. I also have ADHD, so that helps. But like that kind of thing, I like don't even want to see like the opponent or whatever, just because it
Yeah,
feels
no
bad.
one
But I
does.
almost feel like I should face it. I should feel like I should train myself to be like, yeah, like they're getting frustrated. That's a good thing. That's what like Cam tells me, Light. Like
Hmm,
we've played a lot, and he just like he's super like nice, relaxed, like chill guy. But in game, he's like when he notices like someone's getting mad, he starts like giggling to himself. He's like, like I got him, like evil almost. But like it's
yeah.
normal. It's like what everyone does. But I can't. I don't know what it is. I
Well,
have to
that's the
like
thing too.
train
Like,
myself to like to want that, you know?
yeah, and like some people have certain approaches to it. Like me personally, I don't really want that, but I'll play to it. Like I won't I won't like giggle or like crack a smile or whatever. Like oftentimes like I'll feel bad. Like but genuinely like it's not something that you want to see, but it's something you if you're like competing, you would want to capitalize on, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Like, one thing that, like, I know I was on break, but I still kind of, when I was feeling okay, I wrote some notes down and I kind of
hmm,
told, or kind of tried to make a plan. I don't know if it's silly or not, but like, basically my plan was like, try to identify these weak things and then like, try to force myself to play as kind of most in that way that I'm bad at as possible. Example, like, camping. I'm not very good at that. I'm gonna go online and like just time people out and don't care if I win or lose. Just try to like play
okay,
like
sure.
that, just so I can learn to, do it, or like play as annoying and like spammy and just like make them feel bad as possible, just so I can like feel okay doing it if I have to. Just these things that like I never do. Just make a list of them and then try to like force myself to do the extreme, just so I can use them like a little bit if I need to. You know what I mean? I haven't tried it yet
Yeah.
because I haven't played much ult since I've only played once since the break, but just an idea like I have to change something like about how I'm thinking and like
Hmm.
what I'm feeling because it's all kind of backwards.
Yeah. So I will definitely. keep that in mind when we talk about like strategizing, because I think that's a good idea and that's a good frame of reference to like practice and get better. Um, but let's kind of talk. Let's keep it focused a little bit right now on just like competition mentality. Um, but I do think that's a valid point, and like we'll bring that up in a minute. But basically, like what I want to talk about when it comes to like your opponent getting upset or like them messing up or whatever it is, there's different approaches you can take to it, right? Like I don't know if you've ever heard the saying of Hungrybox talking about like when he enters every tournament set, like he has a gun to his head, like his life is on the line.
I've heard that.
So
Yeah.
he'll play every stock that he's on like it's his last stock. Like if he makes a mistake, like it's catastrophic for him. For some people, and like there's different approaches you can take to that as well. I don't think that's the mentality for everyone, but I think that kind of like illustrates like the severity that some people take it. So when you're saying like, yeah, Light will like laugh and like capitalize on it and like basically like out of game taunt them to like make them more upset and like make it so that they start messing up more and like capitalizing off their mistakes because they're gonna make more because they're upset. That's definitely one approach to take to it. Personally, I will just try and like in game. I'll try and keep it all in game. You know, so like if I see something like that happen, like it maybe I'll just like move around a little bit more and make myself harder to hit, or maybe then I'm gonna go in a little bit more when they're gonna be a little bit more aggressive, like hoping to make up for their mistake or something. Um, and then you can kind of capitalize it off that way. Like there's different approaches you can take to your opponent messing up and getting frustrated. I don't think personally, I think it's a little like psychotic to like get a little bit like excited about it um and like laugh. Like I don't know, not calling Light like I'm not calling him
No,
psychotic necessarily. I'm just
maybe I
saying
like
like
said it wrong. He doesn't like laugh out loud, but he'll tell me like he just kind of
yeah,
tells me
yeah,
like
no.
example when he's playing Brolin and Brolin's known for like swearing
Mhm.
and stuff. Like he'll tell me like when he hears that he feels good and he'll like laugh inside because he knows he's gonna win and or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that
Well,
kind of feeling,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Like I'm not saying that he's necessarily like that, but
he's
I
not
know
taunt. No,
I
no, he's not
there
taunting
are
him.
people who are. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true too. The people
Um
like who I don't know. There's several like known people in New Brunswick who do that sort of thing, like when they're
yeah, yeah.
losing and they're mad, and it does like get to me a little bit. I don't want to say I've gotten used to it because I haven't, but I have to be more like what you're saying, just feel okay or like use that to
You
my
have to be aware
advantage
of
in
it.
game. Yeah, be
Yeah.
aware and or even like not even looking at them if I'm playing online or something. Like you can tell by the way they're playing if they're frustrated, and then like use
Yep.
that to capitalize on that and like
Yeah.
it'll help you win. And I have to be like okay with that, but that's just getting
Yeah.
myself to feel okay is kind of the problem.
So the thing that I the thing that I do to kind of like make that easier for myself, which I guess we'll talk about like the second part of what I want to talk about a little bit now, which is like strategizing a game. I think that that might help you more with competition mentality once we establish that maybe. Is like I will try and go into every matchup with like a game plan. And if especially in melee where there's like maybe like 15, 13 matchups that are like really relevant a lot of the time, um I will even like break that down a little bit for like, okay, I have a strategy for like the Marth matchup, but I know Marth can play in so many different ways. So like this type of Marth that I think they're gonna play, like I have a strategy for them too, and like a game plan basically. So it's something that I established like a lot of my games around is like what game plan do I have going into this matchup? So like when you see me lose an ultimate a lot of the time, it's usually just because I don't have a game plan because I don't play the game really, right? Like I'm just kind of playing it like whatever. And that's something I think a lot of ultimate players in general don't really do too much, which is like very contrasted to what melee players do because there's so many matchups in the game and a lot of them you can kind of treat similarly. And again, not to like shit on ultimate or anything or like get into that, but basically what I'm trying to say is like the more you like pre-prep going into a set, and I'm not necessarily saying like analyzing everyone's mistakes or anything like that. I'm just talking about like your character to character ranges, whatever knowledge. Um, the more you can kind of like have like a sense of comfortability when you go into a game and like rely on something. So that's how you would not get baited, or that's how you can establish things like okay, now they're in friendlies mode or now they're in tournament mode because if you have like a solid game plan, like you're like some people call it like a level 1 or level 2,
Yeah, yeah.
where like your level 1 is just like how you're going to play tournament mode every time, and then level 2 is every adaptation you make. But you can always go back to your level 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I totally get that concept. I feel like my level one. Okay, I feel like th- I've said this to someone else I was talking to. I said it like I feel like I'm in an RPG character who's put all my points into my one thing, like my one
Hmm.
attribute, and then I did okay, most of the game, but now I'm like facing something where I need to be a well-rounded, person or character or whatever to like make it, and I'm struggling
Hmm.
because I'm hitting this thing where I'm like my level one is very good, but it's not working anymore against maybe this specific person or something. Like, and then I
Yeah.
don't have really a good level two. Like, let's say I need to play patient. I don't know how because I've never practiced it. I've never practiced running away or playing defensive. Like, I don't know how to do it, and then I just end up losing. Like, just even worse because I don't know how to do it. So it's like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Where my like example, Game and Watch, obviously Nair, up air, up B, like just really strong. Like if I can almost turn my brain off and just run and just mash nair, 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 and it'll hit, and then I know
Hmm.
what to do from there. And then it's those people who are like really good at avoiding nair, or like they will just make their whole life's goal just to not get hit by nair, and then like I fall apart. I don't know what to do. It's that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
No, that totally makes sense. And like that's just tournament, like people obviously don't want to lose.
Hmm.
But so what I would say is like to me that sounds like you just as much as you say like you put so much time into your level 1. Um I think maybe it's just maybe not all time well spent, or maybe you're just not as prepped as you think you might be. So, for an example of what I'm talking about, you mentioned earlier that you were like, taking notes of like different play styles or options you can do during your break that like you think, oh, I don't usually play like this. Like, how can I do this or whatever? Like, that's very normal for what people want to do when they're improving, right? Like the best thing that you can do, I know you were talking about like getting baited by like let's say the grenade option, and like the mix up of like, well, now I have to go in because there's a wall of a grenade in front of me right now. Um, like, oh shoot, I think I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, hold on.
That's okay.
Oh no, 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 I got it. So like basically, what I'm trying to say is like, if you do not have established in your level 1 game plan of like, okay, let's say I know Snake is going to put up this wall because it's a very common and strong option that he can do. What can I do to beat that? If you don't have like that kind of idea set in your head already, that's a specific note that you should be taking down versus like I'm losing to the same thing all the time. So like when you're saying like I can play defensive, that's a great note and it's definitely something you can like try and practice in friendlies for sure. But another note you could be taking is like how do I beat the grenade wall specifically, right? Because that's like part of that would be part of your game plan matchup knowledge going into that game. Um that you can bring in and like play around. So like if you have that answer, then it's a lot easier to play around it versus like okay, I know I'm going to get hit by grenade, but like now what?
Yeah, I think
Like
like
because then you get stuck by like a mental wall of like, well, I can't go in, so now what do I do?
right. I think that idea like they said I've noticed when I have okay, so like Game and Watch when he gets full bucket, he gets, rest or whatever on a stick.
Hmm.
Like it's just really broken against Snake or like Samus or something. And what I've noticed is that when I have a full bucket and then they're like, "Oh, now I can run away and spam projectiles." I don't actually know what to do with it, so I just throw the bucket away and now I have an empty bucket again. So it's like definitely a flaw in that like I don't really know what to do against these characters when I have a full bucket and now they're allowed to use their projectiles because I normally just have this like crutch that I can rely on to,
Hmm.
beat their projectiles. And then people have caught on that they can start actually using those as a bait. So like normally Snake wouldn't throw any projectiles because I'll just collect them and get an
Hmm.
OP move. But then what happens if they do and then they're really good at punishing me for trying to collect it. And then that sort of thing is where now I'm getting stuck because the Snake players have like Keith and Seth have like figured that out. And then the
Yeah.
Samus thing, it's like the same thing again. Like Samus will, charge the charge shot at in my face, and I'll just hold out bucket, and then they'll cancel it, and I'll get grabbed and die.
Hmm.
Like that sort of thing. Like where I'm just thinking like I see the shiny thing on the screen, and I'll just hold
Yeah,
bucket or
yeah.
whatever. Like I don't see what they're actually planning behind kind of their actions.
Okay, no, that's totally fair. So like yeah, let's use those as examples, right? Like your level 1 is like I want to take the projectiles as much as possible so I can get my like like disjoint rest pretty much, right? Like rest on a stick
Yeah.
and then hit them with it. And that's what they're scared of, right? So they're like that's your level 1. Their response to it is to either like you said, like play more defensive so that they don't get hit by it or like let you get it, but then like play defensive around it and then start shooting a bunch of projectiles, right? That's their response to it. So your level 2 needs to be like, what option do I have on paper to beat that? So basically, what I'm trying to say is like you're establishing a threat in the game, and as long as you're able to like take notes in your head, either outside of a set, so you can like study it and like know it like heart by like what's the saying? I don't know, but basically like know it as much as possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Know it by
Yeah.
heart. Thank you. You can either be specific as possible as that, or you need to like develop the ability to like recognize like patterns like that of like, okay, what are they afraid of, right? So like you're very clearly establishing they're afraid of the bucket, and now they're gonna do everything you can outside of the bucket. So like just like even breaking that down like really quick, like what could you do instead of you like running at them with the bucket? You can threaten anything else, right? Because
Great.
that's kind of like the benefit, right? Is like now all of a sudden they're so scared of like your win condition basically that you have so many other options and like they can't run away from everything that you have, right? Maybe some characters can because like it's ultimate and I get there every character has like a bad matchup. But the point that I'm trying to establish is like once you like set a condition that they have to respond to, like you inherently have a small advantage just in the fact that you're forcing them to play differently. And that's not something that can really happen too much in friendlies because like you said, people aren't really scared of those win conditions as much. Does that make sense?
Right. And like I noticed that too, like one thing that I'm kind of realizing about myself is I'm not that good at identifying my weaknesses, and I like to have a good plan for the future. I feel like one, I have to identify the weaknesses. Two, I have to like practice them in like a way that makes sense to me. I
Mhm.
can't just like when people say, how do you play this, matchup, or they'll say, oh yeah, just spam up air or something like very
Yeah, yeah.
vague in what people say, and like that stuff doesn't really, I don't know if I'm too dumb for it or I just think differently or I need
No,
to kind of form my
it's just
own
too
thoughts
like blanket
really.
statement. Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel
It's
like
not your
I
fault.
need to like take in what other people say, but I have to kind of translate
You have
it
to
to
translate it for
myself
yourself.
for myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody has to do that.
Yeah, yeah, right. So then like I have to identify like what I'm bad at, which is hard. Two, like make
Mhm.
a plan for practicing that what I'm bad at,
Mhm.
kind of like what I was thinking with the I don't know, go on Elite Smash and time people out or just something like that. Or
Yep.
like just play annoying or just play in a different way or like play without using Nair or something like that, whatever. Like
Mhm.
if I can't use Nair, then I have to do something different and practice like not using that or
Yeah.
whatever. And then the thing I noticed with the bucket thing we're talking about, I played. I was just this was like a while back. I was trying to get Wario into Elite, and I noticed
Mhm.
literally the same thing that happens with bucket. When I got charged off, I would just run at them and try to use it, and they just like they just avoid it, and then I die. So I need a
Yeah.
better game plan of like use my strong kind of acquired win condition in a way that like now I have to force them to play differently, and then I'm not kind
Mhm.
of doing that. So it was like the same symptom in those two characters that I just
Yeah,
noticed
exactly.
recently. Yeah.
And like this is like a really like common option, right? It's like I like people say with Marth all the time at like low levels, or like I just want to hit F smash, and like once I start F smashing, like I win, but when people start dodging my F smash, like what do I do? And it's like okay, like and like it's kind of similar with Game and Watch Bucket a little bit. Like the move's pretty big. So basically, like the answer to that often is like okay, F smash or Bucket in this example has such a massive range that they're trying to consistently avoid, right? Let alone like any setups that go into it. Like I don't know if Nair necessarily combos into bucket, but the point that I'm trying to make is like
Everything combos into bucket. By the way, jab combos into bucket. Like it's ridiculous, but
okay, so
yeah.
yeah,
Like
the point that I'm trying to make.
I have to get close to them as now a character who doesn't have like a defensive tool anymore. Like I used to
Well,
have a
that's
reflector or an absorber, and now I don't have it anymore. But instead, it's been replaced by like a strong kill move. So that's kind
yeah,
of you know the
but
thing.
that's what I'm trying to say. It's like
Mhm.
that's your level 1 of like you have to get close to them, right? Because like it's pretty obvious. Like yeah, like if I want to hit the bucket, like I got to get within bucket range. But that's going to be their inherent response to that, right? If they're really like a human being, like they're not going to be thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to like let him play close to me and get hit by Bucky." They're going to do everything they can to get away from that now that you've
It's
established that,
exactly
right?
what that's what my wife said that I don't understand is like
Hmm.
and that's kind of what Groovy was saying too. Like it's almost as if I like don't believe there's a human there who's trying to trick me or trying to avoid my stuff, and it's just like a, you know,
Well, let me ask you
pixels on a
this.
screen, and that's where I'm not thinking. I'm just thinking like me want run in and hit button, and I just keep
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
that all the time for it, not just
Do
bucket,
you
for everything.
when you play, are you often thinking about like what is your opponent thinking at the time?
Like no, like barely. Like I try to force myself, and then I find it's like mentally exhausting, and then I stop. Or maybe I can do it for like a minute, but then I get like exhausted trying to think that hard.
Yeah. So that's normal. Like you don't want to be able to be like constantly thinking like, okay, they're gonna be thinking this because I'm a because you're just gonna go down that rabbit hole, right? Um, but even just like small examples of it. So like let's keep it simple. Let's say they're in the corner and then like I don't know, they're on the ledge or something, right? Or like even just in the corner in general. If you're standing right in front of them, right, and like in your head you're thinking like, oh sweet, I have a bucket, they're in the corner, they have nowhere to run, throw it out. Like, what do you think they're gonna do in that situation?
They're gonna, I don't know, probably jump off stage or like jump away or something like that.
Yeah, jump, reflect, whatever. But the point being, they're not gonna run at you, right? If they run at you, you're getting lucky, and then like you get a kill, sweet. But basically, what I'm trying to say is like you have to establish like I think what you would want to take as a new approach to like not or at least to like fishing for kills is like you need to think about like your threat ranges and like think about what options they have to get away from them, right? That would be your level 2 is like your level 1 is hitting them point blank right where they are, right? Or letting them run into you, whatever. That's great. But if you know like okay, now that I've established I have a win condition, the only way they don't lose because like we said before, like in competition, you don't want to lose, right? You're going to do everything you can to get away from it. They're going to do everything to get outside of that range. So your level 2, your adaptation would just be okay, I'm going to change my normal game plan of run up and hit them. So now I'm going to throw it the bucket maybe somewhere where like they're not going to expect it or like where I know they're going to escape to. And then all of a sudden it works, right? And that's obviously very simplified and I know it's like a lot more complicated that in the moment cuz like people can adapt to
Simple
habits
is
and
good
stuff.
because yeah, no, simple is good because I think I have to simplify it for myself, or at least like kind of learn just the basic ideas. Because what
Yeah.
happened, like I think my brain just tends to get scrambled when I'm, especially in Ultimate with all these matchups. Like I know what every character does, but like it just things are just happening. You can't memorize every single interaction. A lot of it is still just kind of play by feel and feel out what the opponent is doing or what they want. That's a big part of that, I think. And it's like it's not just bucket. It's like everything. Like, why do I get baited? Why do I like run into
Yeah.
Samus fair? Like Samus is charging charge shot, and then I'll either bucket and get grabbed, or I'll jump over it and get faired or something.
Mhm.
You know, like it's why can't I realize that the charge shot is
So
a bait? It's not actually meant to hit me.
yeah, like what we're talking right now is just about you hitting an aggressive option or like hitting something. But like when you want to avoid something, you kind of have to like reverse the rules, right? So like now, like you said, like Samus is charging your charge shot. She's established her win condition. Like let's say you're a high percent. If you get hit by it, you die. So like if and you still want to try and hit her. And that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. Not a crazy amount, but only a little bit because you can't just sit there and do nothing, right? You'll get hit by charge shot. So now you're in a situation where, and again, I think the fact that you're not like really thinking about what they're going to be doing can often impede you, especially in Ultimate, where a lot of the time the answer is like just wait. Like you don't really have like as many. I don't want to. Well, no, I think that's a fair thing to say. I don't think you have as many threat ranges in Ultimate than you would in Melee, just because you have a little bit less like movement options.
Less, yeah,
So
less like stuff
oftentimes,
until I get in. So it's a lot of staying at mid range and like I don't know, either going for something unreactable or like dashing out
well,
of the mid range again.
yeah. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's like you either have to just wait or you can try and use movement to bait. But like the Samus charge shot one's a little bit tricky just because like there's not really many characters that have like a direct answer to like punishing a charge shot out of shield like dead blank like point blank. Like you usually have to get around her and that's why like the charge shot fair thing is so strong.
It's not
Because like
even
even
like
if you roll
they
into
don't
it.
even have to charge it. They just like hold B and then cancel it or whatever, and then they do a fair.
Well that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Like
just like I know Samus is like one of the best characters at doing that sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
mixing it like the rock paper scissors whatever. But that when I get sucked into that type of mini game, I feel like I lose every time. Like, and even like
Yeah.
dash by, even somebody who like runs close to me baits me into thinking that I can grab them or like
Yep.
something, and then they even in melee whatever they wave dash back. Like I don't get any grabs in melee because I'm like, oh, I see them standing there, I'm gonna run up and grab, and then oh, they wave dash back and hit me,
Yeah,
like
they
stuff
move.
like that. Because like I just that is like my problem that I think I've identified. I need to start or learn how to start thinking in a way that will kind of
Well, I
help
think
me
an
figure
easy
out
way to
what
do it.
they want, and then that will net me more stuff that I want in the end. But it's like I have to do a roundabout way to get there. I can't just run in and do it, you know?
Yeah, like an easy way just to like start. Because like I think pretty much what I'm hearing is like you have a ton of problems in game, like when it comes to like thinking about what they're doing, like adapting, like how do you change your
I'm
game
hella
plan.
carried by my character's bullshit. I'll freely admit it. Hella carried.
Well,
I
like
don't know.
it's fine. Like
Yeah.
punish game is punish game, right? So like um basically like an easy way to like start like thinking about like getting into your opponent's head or like making adaptations or whatever is just keeping like a small list of either like what are you basically like even let's keep it even simpler for you. What are you getting hit by? That's like the easiest one, right? Because if you're able to like constantly be keeping in your head like, man, I just keep getting. I'm not gonna use Samus because I know we've already established like her doing that is like one of the best in the game. Like let's keep it simple with like Snake or something, right? Like, man, I'm consistently being hit with grenades. Like, what can I do to like stop getting hit by grenades, right? Because like I'm racking up way too much damage. Like, this is not going well for me. There's a couple different approaches you can take to it without getting into specifics, but basically what I'm trying to say is like even just that alone of like keeping a list of like what's the last thing you got hit by, like that's consistently gonna like give you a little reminder in your head when you next run up close to him in your mid range, like, oh man, like what is he likely gonna go for? If I'm keep getting hit by grenades, he's probably gonna throw another grenade. Unless you're at like death percent, and then like maybe then he's gonna start throwing smash attacks or kill moves or whatever. But the point being, like, if you're able to start thinking like, okay, grenade is the last thing I got hit by. I don't want to get hit by it again. Now I'm gonna go on a platform, or now I'm gonna go in a range, or start threatening my reflector, so that I'm not gonna get hit by it. Right? Like that. That's just a small, like, simple example, and I'm sure you already know like how to deal with grenade. But what I'm trying to establish is like that's kind of how you make an adaptation just like in a simple way without even like getting deep into like a character matchup or something like that. You know, like you could say that same argument about like the grenade thing, or not argument, same example with like, I don't know, Game and Watch up smash, right? Like, man, I keep getting hit by Game and Watch up smash. I'm gonna go on a platform, or I'm gonna run away from him, or anything.
Yeah.
So, oh,
Usually,
go
like
ahead.
if I had to think what I tend to get hit by, it's usually picking an aggressive option that they're ready for, and then they dash back and punish it, or extending my combo too long where not taking back stage control and instead just trying to hit them, for the fifth time, like when I've already
Yeah,
gotten
yeah,
4 hits or whatever, and then they like
like
time to
overextending.
air dodge or hit me back or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that sort of thing, or like, um, it's usually that. It's usually like aggressive option that fails for whatever, like
Okay.
one reason or another.
Well, at least for the combo extending one, I'll save you some time so we don't have to talk about it right now. But like I did a Metafy lesson with Caleb a little while ago where we talked about that a little bit in Melee. But like if you watch the video, it's not too long into it. Um, I think the concept is pretty well explained there. So like you can watch that to talk about that. But at least for you overextending, like running in with an aggressive option, like you said already, like you have good notes for it already. It's just like try practice playing different ways. So like an example could be like if your game plan generally, so to speak, is to like just run in, hit them, get in a range where you can hit them, and try your best to throw a move. Maybe next time you play Elite Smash or friendlies or whatever, you can just try getting close to them and not necessarily reacting to what they're doing, but like getting close and trying to bait them to do an option and then whiff punishing them for it, right? A lot of Ultimate is whiff punishing, as much as some people don't want to admit that. Um, and like that's also just like whiff punishing in general is just like how you win neutral a lot of the time. Like you can even just do something like with Game of Watch. It's like super easy. You could just do run up like shield, even if you're not gonna do like anything out of shield and like try and hit them. You can just back off if nothing happens. That's a completely like legitimate option,
Yeah, you
right?
know,
Even
that's
though you,
funny that you said that because that was in my notes. I didn't send you these, but I try to think of these things over the last couple weeks, like what I was saying, things I'm bad at, and then like exercises or ways to practice
yep,
them. And like my number three was actually what I was saying, overcommitting. I just like run in and go too far and hit too many buttons, too fast. So then I
yep,
wrote down the way to like practice doing that is just dash in and dash out. Attempt, this is what I wrote. Attempt to make them do an option, but don't punish it. Just practice dashing in and dashing back. Dash in and do a defensive option, shield or spot dodge or jump back or something, and then focus on paying attention to what they do when you run in without the pressure of actually like having to hit them. So if I'm not trying to hit them, since this is just like an exercise for practice, then I feel like I can learn to pay more attention to that sort of thing. So like I feel
yeah,
like I want to go and do like 10 games of this, and I'll lose 10 games because I'm not gonna hit them. I'm just gonna like run in and just try to practice keeping like a mental tab of what they're doing or like how they respond to me running in or whatever. So
yeah. And that's the other thing too. Is like to me, I don't think you've really established like too many game plans from what it sounds like if you're not thinking about like what are their options. So when you're doing these exercises, like you're not really gonna I don't think you're gonna learn anything necessarily, but you'll get the feel of like movement, you know?
I'll get the
So like
feel of playing in a different way, and then it also make me back to like my first problem we talked about. It'll make me feel okay with doing these like I don't know, playing in these ways that I guess consider evil or like you know I would feel bad if someone did them or I would feel bad doing it to someone. It would also get me to practice them, so I like don't also feel bad
yeah.
doing them. That's like another benefit, but yeah, like the practicing like adapting and thinking what do they want, how do I fully get my mind in that framework is going to take time and like that's
Yeah.
that
And like
sounds hard.
it's you're also gonna find too, like especially if it's like not something you're regularly thinking about, like yeah, you're gonna get mentally exhausted by it. Because like there's so many different things you can be juggling at once, right? Like how is my spacing? How is their spacing? Like what am I afraid of are they gonna hit me with? What am I trying to hit them with? Like what are they gonna do? You know? Like you can't possibly think about that all at once. Like what did I get hit by, you know? It's just too much. So like keeping it simple and just doing like what did I last get hit by? Like that even just that is completely fine because when you play in tournament, you're gonna want to make it be in a state where you're not really thinking too hard. You kind of want it to all be on feel, like you're level
Yeah.
one, like I said. So like when you do establish a win condition, or if they do, you have time, like you have the mental space kind of to like adapt and think about it. Um, and like that can be your focus when you're playing. You know?
I also think like um when let's say I do get good at these small things, then I can
Hmm.
it's almost like where right now even a little bit of thinking I find exhausting because I'm not really used to it. When I figure out the
Yeah.
like easy things to think about, like you said, those will then also just become part of my pile of stuff I'm already good at, and then that'll
Yeah.
just make me better on
Exactly.
its own, and then I'll be improve the skill of just kind of thinking, and then I'll be able to think about more complicated things or game plans and not be exhausted sort of thing. So like yeah, that's a good point, really good point, starting with just thinking about something easy and just only doing that for a bit.
Yeah. Definitely.
What do
Um,
you suggest other than you mentioned think about like what did I last get hit by? Like what other kind of simple, you know, questions like that could I be asking myself? Or like what should I add to the list of things to practice?
well, I would definitely say to begin with, kind of something we talked about with the bucket thing. Like, if you have a win condition, like, it doesn't even have to necessarily be like a kill move. Like, a lot of people will just keep it simple, like, oh, I don't want to get hit by Mario Grab, right? Like, because it's going to do a ton of damage. Like, it's probably the one thing he's looking for, whatever. So, a thing you can be constantly thinking about is like, what is my opponent afraid to be hit by in this matchup? And you may find with a lot of people in New Brunswick, they're not even thinking about that. They're just trying to hit like what's their good hit move.
Yeah.
Um, oh, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I just laugh because you're right. Like people also
Yeah,
do that. It's I'm struggling with the people who like don't do that, who are like are a level above. That's fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like you'll pretty quickly figure it out like who's who once you start kind of asking these questions to yourself while you're playing. But like Um, yeah, like an easier version for sure. It's just like, okay, I'm afraid of getting hit by this. Like, what can I do to get around it, and like you can play a whole game like that with some people, right? Like I could play a whole game and not get hit by like TM20 grab or something with Rob or like Mario or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
like he plays Rob, Mario, Bowser, like of course he's gonna go for grab.
Mhm.
But uh, maybe when you play someone like So or something, like their whole game plan is like just get you in the corner as much as possible and then keep you in that corner, right? Like him and Pixels Aplenty, like I feel like those are the two tournaments in New Brunswick where like that's where they're just fishing for the most, right? Like they'll still kill you if they can get an early kill out of you and make you do something wrong. But I promise you, that's like one of the two like major things that both those guys look for, like every time they play someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so your whole game plan would be like, okay, like how can I get around that, or like keep it to a specific move? Like how can I not be hit by charge shot, or how can I not be in threat range of like Palatine and Nair or something like that?
That's a good, yeah,
Like
that's a good thing to practice. I could just, I guess, go online or just pick a simple thing like that and base my like just, as an exercise, don't get hit by this one thing or whatever, or try not to.
yeah,
Yeah, okay,
like I would say it's when you're playing someone better, it's a lot easier to ask, okay, how do I not get hit by this? Because you already know how to hit your stuff. But when you're playing like worse people, like maybe you've already established yourself as the better player, right? And they're scared of your stuff. So then they're going to be more afraid of getting hit by what you're going to throw out. And then you can start asking yourself, okay, how are they going to try to escape this win condition? Or like this. I keep saying win condition, and I don't want you thinking I mean just kill move. Like I mean like
anything,
anything that's good for you.
anything that,
Yeah,
wins an interaction or neutral or something.
yeah. But like big things too, also. Like if you have like a big nair combo that you can hit, or like a big edge guard or whatever, right? Like those, that's kind of also how you hit like edge guards or like air dodge reads, right? It's like they're afraid of, like, if let's keep it simple with like Pokemon trainer up air, right? Like they're afraid of getting hit by up air, so they're going to start air dodging or double jumping away. So it's like, okay, I know two options that they're going to use to get it. Which one do I think they're going to go for? And like I said, like you can kind of keep a mental list of like, okay, I last got hit like for jumping, so now maybe, or they last got hit for jumping here, so maybe this time they're gonna air dodge, right? And then all of a sudden, like that air dodge read is a lot easier to connect because you have information from prior in the game to kind of like help you make that read, right?
Right. Um,
The beginning of games often usually suck because you like don't have any information really other than just like you kind of know how people play generally, but like you can take like direct information after like a minute of the game of like how did that first minute go, and then place your next minute on that kind of.
yeah, I think that that's where I've been kind of carried, I guess, the most so far is I feel like that is one of my skills where I'm generally able to pick the best button for the option. Like it's not
Hmm.
always going to be the best one if I do it 10 times in a row, but like I kind of know like, people generally and when I hit them with, two Game and Watch nairs or up airs, they're gonna jump or they're gonna like air dodge left or something like that. Like these things like people tend to do, or like I'll do bacon at ledge, I'll run up, I'll dash back, and 90% of the time they're gonna air dodge into me right into my up smash or something. I don't know, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I feel like I'm good at playing to like the average player, but not necessarily to the player in front of me. So then, like, when the
One.
person doesn't know how to deal with me, I've had people tell me, like, I'm the hardest opponent they've ever faced, like, harder than Shucky or anyone. Because, like, I've literally
Yeah,
had
yeah.
people tell me that because, like, I can be so overwhelming when these people don't know how to do the tricks or whatever that are my kryptonite that we talked about. But, like, if they don't know how to do those things, I will just not even think and just obliterate them.
Yeah.
Like, no offense, but
No,
it's
no,
the
it's fine.
character and it's like my strength. So it's just these people who like really make it their like what you said, avoid Mario grab. It's like these people, they make their whole life about avoiding my nair or something. That's where
Yeah.
I struggle and then I fall apart. So
Another
to
thing you
fix
can
that.
do. Have you ever read the book? It's like pretty like infamous in like Smash like gamer culture. But have you ever read the book Inner Game of Tennis?
Read half of it.
Okay,
I'm bad at
so
reading. I'm working on it, but
that's okay.
I've
I
started it.
I
Yeah.
just listened to it in an audiobook recently. And like I feel like I know like everything I would have wanted to get gotten out of that book just from like talking to people on Discord for years already. But basically, you can summarize the book generally as try not to like, it's basically like how to achieve like a level of zen in game, right? And like just
Yeah.
seeing the game for what it is. So I would try and maybe just as like a simple like starting exercise for you to like try and get more in your opponent's head and like make better reads or commit a little bit less is like try and treat like maybe the first minute if you want as an exercise of each game where you're just like looking at the screen and like taking notes in your head of like, okay, what's going on? What am I getting hit by? What are they hitting? Whatever. And like just keep like a little list of like, okay, I hit a bunch of nairs if you're beating them, or like I got hit by a bunch of whatever if you're losing to them, right? And then you can kind of treat like the rest of the game as like we talked about, like, okay, now that I've established that I'm hitting this or getting hit by this, what can I do to hit them more or to avoid it more, right? And that's kind of the level two. I think it sounds like to me you're missing the most. And that also will kind of help you in terms of like competition mentality about like not caring too much about what your opponent's messing up or doing, because you're not going to be really thinking about their feelings as much. You're just going to be noticing more about like their gameplay habits and patterns,
There
and
was
you can kind
a,
of keep it like,
I remember reading like a few pages of that in the book. It was like the tennis coach was saying something to the student, like the student was really frustrated with like I don't know, something like my arm's not working and it's swinging it wrong and I keep missing it every time. And then like the guy was like, just detach yourself from the arm and from the racket and just figure out like objectively, just no feelings attached, just what is the problem, like what angle is the ball going at and what do you have to do to fix it or something like that. It was a
yeah,
good paragraph, but it was basically that what you said.
that's essentially the whole book. Like it
Yeah.
gets pretty repetitive near the end. Like, but it also kind of just like reestablishes the same concept in like different ways to say it, basically.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, like
the thing you said about playing the first stock in that way, that reminds me. I forget what it was. Might have been a tweet or something. Someone saying like mid-level players, they get tricked into thinking they're doing well against top-level players like early on in the set because they're like, haha, I'm playing the game. But the top players just using that first minute to suss them out and just kind of download them, and then boom, like second stock or third stock, whatever, they like obliterate them because they've like figured out all the information. And I feel like
yeah,
that too when I play certain players. I'm like, ah, I'm winning, I'm doing great, I'm doing, and then boom, they just figure everything out instantly, and I like crumble, and I don't even know what happened. Like playing like Joe
yeah.
or somebody. Joe is like really good at that, for example.
There's in the melee community, it's kind of like a not a meme, but like it's pretty well established if you talk to people who have been playing for a long time, where like a lot of people who like started playing in like 2013 or like maybe they started with like Slippy or something, like they get really good really fast because they're able to like move their character as efficiently as they want, and like they hit their punishes as much as possible, um, and like they have really good tech skill and stuff. But the second like someone starts playing a little bit differently, they can't handle it. And when they often play against people who were playing in like 2008 or like 2010 or 12 or whatever, like people who didn't have access to a lot of those like really amazing like practice tools and stuff, they'll get destroyed by them. And you would think like, what the heck? They're so much slower. Like their punishes are so much worse. Whatever. But it's because back in the day, like when Smashboards was really big, like big threads weren't on like how to optimize your tech skill and stuff. Like they were, but that wasn't like the main focus on them. It was like how to take information from the set. So like it's the meme basically that I was trying to describe earlier was that if you talk to any player who was playing in like just I'm throwing a random year, but like 2008, like they will often tell you when it comes to like improving at the game, like the name of the game is just taking information that you have previously in the set and like using that to your advantage. Where nowadays it's like, you'll hear often from like newer players, like, oh my god, Jigglypuff back air is so broken, or like Marth F smash is so dumb, or whatever. But they're not often talking about like adaptations or anything. You'll just hear often complaints. But
Oh,
from older players,
yeah.
you'll talk about like you'll hear a lot more about like different play styles and stuff like that, which
Right,
I think
right.
is interesting.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think alt community in general is pretty bad at that because I don't know if it's like newer, younger people in general, but
I think it's just
I've
that, to be
I've
honest.
gotten like not very much help from people about just the I don't know classic like fighting game fundamentals, thinking like strategy, that type of stuff. I've had like I don't want to say talk badly about anyone, but like not really much help from most
Yeah,
people because I don't know if they just don't know how to say it or if they don't know it themselves or whatever. But like that's kind of the stuff that I where I'm lacking and I want to learn. I don't even care about the tech skill. I always think to myself like I can learn tech skill anytime. I just want
yeah,
to fix my brain better so that I have like a solid foundation for the future.
yep. So yeah, I think in terms of adaptation, I think really what we've talked about today is like just like really good like what are they called? Like training wheels, basically. Like until you're able to like fully ride the bike, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, they're really good like first steps. I think generally what you would want to move towards is like I would try and start taking while you can. Well, you could start this now actually while you do that, but I would say try and keep like your complaints or like anything you're struggling with in game be as like specific as you can possibly be, because then it often becomes like a lot easier to solve that. Like, I'm not saying this is a problem you presented or anything. I'm just saying this is a general player problem where like people will complain like, "Oh my god." I'm using Jigglypuff because Jigglypuff is just notorious for losing people losing to her. But like, oh my god, Jigglypuff is so stupid. She keeps hitting me with back air, blah blah blah. Like I keep getting hit by this stupid like option. There's nothing I can do. Every time I run at her, like this happens. But like often you can kind of ask like, okay, where are you getting hit by back air? Are you really getting hit by back air? Blah blah blah. So like having a stream like a recorded set or video like really helps with that
Yeah, yeah,
because then it's a lot easier to point out. But like even just like I said, like the just keeping the mental list of like, okay, hit by this here, whatever, like that'll carry you so far. Like I can literally remember stuff from like 6 years ago that I got hit by in like certain spots against certain people I played against, just because like it's such a recurring thing, and then you can like play around that, right? And like no joke, I will still beat them today because of it. I'm not gonna name names because I don't want to like shit talk anybody,
yeah,
but yeah, I do agree that like it's just I think it's just like an old thing where like the game's new, so they're often juggling like you said like the tech skill stuff, like learning the new game and the new characters so much that like they don't really have too much time to like develop a meta kind of and like think about those stuff more. But I do agree that like I think the taking information like the mental side of it often is like more important than like the literal like direct answers in game, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah, for sure. That is what I want to focus on, and I'm glad that like I don't know, got help just because I don't need to. I don't like care how many sessions we do or whoever else I
Yeah.
have to like whatever Game and Watch Pro I have to talk to, but like I just really like I feel better that I've taken a break and gotten like coaching and made like a list of notes and stuff for myself. So I just it still feels hard. Like I still kind of this is
Yeah,
only the
it's not
beginning.
easy.
Yeah, like it's only the
Yeah.
beginning of like my I don't know mental changes, but like yeah, I want to get there in the end, and I'm feeling more like just hopeful than I was a month ago. So that's good.
Yeah, what's good? Like,
Yeah,
I would say this is definitely like the harder aspect of the game for sure. Like you said, like anybody can sit down and grind tech skill, but like this is the stuff that's like it's just exhausting a lot of the time, especially when it's like a high pressure set or something. That's why I was saying like you often just want to be in a set where like you're really not thinking too hard when you're playing, like barely thinking at all. Just you can keep it simple.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think whoever you like talk about like these mental problems, that sounds weird, but like the mental aspect of Smash a little bit more with, whether it be with me or like a Game and Watch Pro or whatever. I would say try and keep it with the same person as much as you can. Um, and like I said, like be as specific as possible because like you're only ever gonna build off this stuff, right? Like one thing someone said, I heard it on like a Smasher podcast. I think it's called the Wannabes podcast. I forget what episode, but basically like someone said something that's like I relate to a lot, where it's like you'll often find when you're learning Smash, like you'll learn like one thing and like you'll practice it or you'll adapt to it or whatever, but you'll learn like one thing and you won't necessarily get better just from that one thing. But eventually you'll keep doing this thing where like you'll learn one thing and then you'll learn another thing and like you'll pick up all these little pieces, and then one day like all those 10 pieces that you learned are going to like connect together, and then that's where you're going to get that big boost. Like now all of a sudden like the path is clear because now you know these 10 things and like they all
Infinity
kind of like lead
Infinity
together.
Stones or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, like I do feel that's how I always tried to go into whatever tournaments or practice sessions, just like try to learn something, and that's part of where my whole kind of um being, nervous to play a certain way or making them feel bad came from, because I was always playing to learn and playing to like not really care if I win or lose. I'm just learning, and like I did, but now I need to like reverse that and take the training wheels off and be like, no, now I am going to start to win and do
Yep.
whatever it takes, and like, still have a good attitude and continue to learn until these other, mental whatever mental problems work themselves out. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean it's okay too to like I know you say you're going into friendly sessions to like play to learn kind of thing, but like it's okay too. Like I think this thing is like really hard and it's not something you're just gonna get in like a week or even a month.
Okay.
Like I think it's fine to like go into friendly sessions and play for an hour and just like practice this one thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
totally.
like yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, anyway, that's close to an hour, so let's call it here. I don't want to overwhelm you or anything with
it's
too many
all good.
things.
Yeah, I do want to do more sessions, and we can play. Like, I'm still playing Slippy ranked, and
Sure.
like we can play Slippy or Ult or whatever you want, and like maybe we
Sure.
can
Well, if you're
play,
in
and
St.
then you
John tomorrow, like I'll do that. I'll
maybe.
be at the tournament.
Actually, yeah, you will. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So yeah, we
Um,
can play melee or ultimate. I don't have a controller, but I'm sure I can borrow one from Keith.
okay.
But
Like a GameCube
yeah,
controller. I think I have an extra one I could bring.
yeah, I have my melee GameCube controller, but it doesn't work in ultimate.
Oh, okay. Is that like a
Yeah.
fob thing?
No, it's I have trigger plugs in one of them, and that's like the main button I use. I use the same shield button in both games, but because I have the plug, like it just doesn't register as an input in
I see. I
ultimate,
see. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
and yeah, the remap's just too weird for me.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I'll come. I'm May like 90%. I'm 90% sure I'm going, so probably
yeah,
will.
no worries. I
Yeah.
think there's a little hub at beginning of January anyway.
Okay.
And
Well,
East was telling me he wants to go to that, so
yeah. Okay.
yeah, we can try that too.
What do you think we should do for like the next session? Just play and like figure it out from there, or what?
We could do that. I think a really good one if you want to like build upon like what we talked about today, outside of like competition mentality, like just talking about like the new aspect of like strategy about what you're thinking about while you're playing. We could go over a set that you know, like if you have that Lemony Rec set recorded or like a set like that, where like we could just point out like little habits and like ways you can like think about it differently while you're playing, outside of just like direct answers, which like I'm sure we could do. But I think yeah, like the mental aspect, because I've heard it before. Like I don't want you to think like people are talking shit about you or anything, but I've heard it before. Like I know you've struggled with like, what do you mean? Like just stand there? Like what am I supposed to do? So we could talk about that in a set.
That's funny.
Um,
Because yeah, like stuff like that. My instinct is like I don't understand this, and I don't understand why everyone else seems to understand it, and then I get frustrated.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be a good thing to talk about. So if you have a recording or something like that, or even if it's like Elite Smash or something, like we could do either a live session where we talk about it like this, or Metafy also has an option where you can just like send in a video and I can just give you a bunch of detailed notes and keep those forever.
Okay.
So yeah, it's up to you. I'm free all week, so maybe try and get some games in. I would say with what we talked about today.
Cool.
See how you deal with it, and then we can build off that maybe.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks so
Yeah, no
much.
worries.
Yeah, this was really good.
No worries. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. All right. Have a good night, man.
Bye.